And we've got 1 minute, and now it's officially time to start. So welcome guys, welcome to Barnes. It is 7 p.m. UK time. If any of you are completely new to me, you're very welcome. And you've got the chat, feel free to use it, ask me any questions. I might know or I might not know, but I'll try. And without further ado, let's go. So we are here on Barnes Riverside. It's called the Terrace because we've got some interesting buildings, Georgian. Well, actually, some might be even before beginning of the 18th century, really. Thank you, Nathalie. And I started here because this little building there, number 27, would you believe, was the site of a double murder. A double murder that I did not know about until 2 hours ago. Because what I do usually when I prepare a tour in an area that I don't necessarily know very well, I try to, I often pop into the churches, the local churches, because they often have little flyers or little booklets, you know, with local history, the type of stuff that you don't necessarily hear about on the internet. And I'm gonna have to get out the umbrella, bear with me 1 second. So I went into St. Mary's Church, we'll see the church in a moment. I got a little history booklet, and guess what? They told me about a murder. So I didn't know I could count on the church to tell me about murders, but yes I can. Sorry, I'm struggling. Yes, there we go. Oops. So yeah, thanks to the church, I can now tell you a second murder today. So at number 27 behind me, in 1812, you had two quite rich inhabitants. They were the Count and Countess d'Entraigues. I don't know where Entraigues is, but it's clearly in France. I probably should know, I don't know. So the Count and Countess d'Entraigues, they were French refugees, really. They were, it was a time of turmoil in France with the revolution and all that. So because they were quite royalist, they had escaped and they were living here in London for the time being. And one morning, there's a young man, a servant called Lorenzo. He went to the pub down the street there, 6 a.m. He had a pint of gin, and then he came back. He was meant to help the Count and Countess d'Entraigues to go into the horse carriage. They were going into central London. And someone heard a gunshot. There were a lot of witnesses. There were a lot of other servants around. And the young man came with some kind of a dagger, and he actually stabbed the Countess. Then he ran inside, and they heard he had a pistol in his hand, and he also stabbed the Count. Oh, look, we've got some seals in the Thames River. I've never seen anyone that far up the river, but I've seen quite a few around the Tower Bridge. Anyway, so he stabbed the Count as well. I have to be careful when I say Count, because I don't know. I don't know if my pronunciation is quite right. Yes, seals, Elizabeth. The Thames River is tidal. It goes up and down following the sea levels, and it's actually a little bit salty. You have some semi-marine creatures like seahorses and crabs, and we've got seals. We are now under the Barnes Bridge. So he stabbed the both of them with all those witnesses, and he went upstairs and he actually killed. I'm just laughing about the Count because I should pronounce it the French way. So the Count, because he was French anyway. So to this day, we still don't know whether the young servant was just, if he just had strong mental health issues, or if it was a conspiracy. Because the Count and Countess, they were known to be, counter-revolution espionage across Europe. They were probably spying, and they had been, we believe, plotting to try to get Marie Antoinette out of France, you know, before the revolution and before our king and queen lost a head. So it's probably why they've been eliminated. But to this day, we still don't know. Anyway, let's move on to the story I'm actually here to tell you. Some of you might have heard part of this story. So the very reason I scheduled that tour today, it is because you might remember when I did the Monopoly tour and I went to jail. So I tried to take you to Wandsworth prison. And I had some major signal issues. And I didn't realize I was in the middle of a graveyard behind the prison. I was telling you the story of Kate Webster's, and I couldn't get any reaction in the chat. So I was like, God, is that because they're shocked by the murder, or is there something wrong? And I realized that you had missed most of the story because of a signal issue. So I decided to tell you anyway, to find a different spot to tell you the story. So that's why we're here today. And Elizabeth is here. Elizabeth Regina, because on Hego she used to be Elizabeth R. And so yeah, that's why I choose to come here today. So we had, a little murder mystery that started here in 1879. There was a young coachman that was delivering coal. You know, at the time they had, let me see if it's actually still raining. Not really. I can probably get rid of the umbrella for now. So you know, at the time they used to warm up their houses with coal. So you had those porters, you know, delivering the coal every day. So he was right here where I am with his horse and carriage, and there were two of them. And he stopped over here because he spotted a box on the river shore. A box that looked like it might have been the proceeds of maybe a burglary or something. So there could be some valuables inside. So he decided to stop his horse. He opened the little box, and inside were some brown bags with meat inside, boiled meat, large chunks of boiled meat. So the two of them looked at the packages and they were like, no, the pieces of meat did not look like any animals that they recognized. One of them was like, no, don't worry, it's from the butchers, it must be. And the other one was like, no, I think we should just report the fine to the police, you know, just in case. And when the police came, straight away they recognized that it was human flesh. Now, they didn't have much to go with because, you know, at that time there were quite a few bodies being found in the river. Usually they were not put in a box and individually bagged as like every muscle and everything, but, you know, it became dubbed as the Barnes mystery. The body was taken to the mortuary in Barnes old cemetery there, and that was it. They started to investigate, but, you know, they were, I'm gonna have to put the umbrella back up, bear with me. They didn't have any types of forensics at the time, you know, it was very, very basics. And they didn't have a head, so that would have been, thank you, that would have been a bit easier with a head, but there was no head, sadly. And they investigated. It could be her, and there were some witnesses that said that she had been, let's cross over, oops, oh, thank you. Sorry, I'm going Mary Poppins in the middle of the road with my umbrella. So yeah, they believed it could be that German servant because she had, some people had described her having a little case that could have looked similar, but then it turned up that it wasn't her. She just didn't turn up for that job because she found another one outside of London, and that was it for the time being, until a few weeks later, about a neighbor That lady was known as Kate Webster, and she was originally from Ireland. She was always an outlaw, really. She was doing a lot of pickpocketing. She also ended up selling her body, according to some. She first moved from Ireland to Liverpool, and then she went back into pickpocketing. She had to go to prison for a little while. Then she moved to London, and she started stealing from lodging houses. Talking about lodging houses, this is quite a cool coaching inn. You can see that would have been the entrance for the coachmen to come in, with their horse carriage and everything. And I think it's quite old because it doesn't look very straight to me. Oh no, sound is in and out again. It's probably my signal, so I'll keep moving. Is it better now? I wonder if it could be linked with the weather, because last time it was bad weather as well when it happened. Can you hear me well now? Let me know. If not, I'll probably just yes, cool. So yeah, Kate she had been to Liverpool, to London to start. Whether it was with a boyfriend or with a client, as she was potentially a sex worker. Let's just take a look at the letterbox, and it is George VI. George VI, so that's Queen Elizabeth II father. You can hear the rain. Yeah, it's quite bad at the moment. I don't mind when it's only the rain, use the umbrella if it comes in the frame, but I do have to protect the gimbal as much as I can. So yeah, she came into London. She spent a bit of time in Wandsworth prison, and then she applied to work as a servant for a lady called Julia Thomas. Not here, it's in Richmond. I could have actually done the tour in Richmond as well. The house is still there. If I ever tell you this story again, I might go there. And very quickly, as she started to work for Mrs. Thomas, she didn't like the job. Apparently, Mrs. Thomas was always complaining, and she would go behind her and tell her, "Oh, you've not cleaned here well. You've not." In probably true that Miss Thomas was very busy. And the lady living next door, she was the landlady, so she knew Mrs. Thomas very well. And Mrs. Thomas was quite a churchgoer, and we knew that she started not to feel comfortable with Kate. Together, anyway, they decided that was it. So Kate quitted, or she got fired. We don't really know, but it was a common agreement. But she did ask her boss if she could stay till the end of the month, till the 12th of this way, so we can go around the pond there. Mrs. feeling uncomfortable because she had asked friends of hers to sleep with her because she didn't feel comfortable with Kate. Unfortunately, those people were not available. And one day she went to church. She came back, and she was not seen again for a little while. What we know now that happened, it's that, well, Kate had basically killed her employer, Mrs. Thomas. Then she panicked, dismembered the body, cooked most of the body, boiled. She believed it was going to prevent identification. And then she tried to dispose of it. According to some, she cooked the fat into drippings. According to some, again, that's not proven, but apparently she went to the local pub and she tried to sell those, what she described as her best drippings. You know, at the time they used a lot of animal's fat to cook, or even just on toast, like you would with butter today. And we do not know whether that is true, but what we do know is eventually they found some jars of human fat in the apartment, so it probably is. That's why the press has that became such a case. Today we don't really have this impression that ladies are better, but in Victorian times, you know, the dynamic between men and women were early recycler, yes, Tish. You know, at the time they get lesser pay, behave better than men, so that was a little bit probably happened. And one day she had a bag with her that we know now contained the head of Mrs. Thomas. So I'll show you, there's a lovely carving here. So she went to see her friends, a family she knew from before, and she told them that she had married. She was now Mrs. Thomas. She was not. She was Kate Webster. And that she had also just lost her husband, and she had also lost a great aunt that left her a bit of an inheritance. So she now had a house to empty, and she was looking for a broker to sell all the furniture. So she kindly asked the Porter family to help her with that. So they had a teenage boy called Robert. So they said, yeah, sure, we'll find you a broker, and Robert can come and help. So you'd have to imagine the scene. They're having tea in the garden, talking about selling some furniture, when she's got a bag next to her feet, next to the table's feet, with a head inside. I mean, it is that, wow. And then she went with the little Robert. They crossed over the river. They went to the pub. The pub is still here today in Richmond. Maybe I might show you one day. It's called, it was called the Hole in the Wall. So they went to the pub when she said, oh, she's got to go and meet someone very quickly. So she goes to meet someone and she comes back without that bag. That's interesting to remember for later. She comes back without the bag, and then she asked little Robert to help her. She wanted to carry a big case. She was going to meet someone across the river, and little Robert, of course, agreed. Before we go much further, let me tell you about the pond. The pond here in 2001, one day it was drained. The local resident had no idea why. The water was gone, completely gone. So they had to do some work, and they found out that there was an old Victorian pipe that had not been used in years, but the water had leaked into the pipe. The pipe was used to you know, we have those lost rivers in London that were used for the public sewer in Victorian times. So that pipe was basically used to flush the sewers away and then into the Thames. So they had to block that pipe to get their pond back. And yes, someone pulled the plug out. And anyway, back to there's another interesting carving here, a frog. So that's me. So So yeah, the young man agreed to help her carry the case. It was not the bridge we've seen earlier. It was the bridge in Richmond. And they're walking across the bridge, and she said to him, "Oh, you go ahead. I'm gonna meet my friend now." And the young man was like, "Well, no, I can help you. Where is your friend?" No, you go ahead. I'll meet you at the pub." So the young man went ahead, and a few meters later, and I'm not exaggerating that, it's his witness account, he goes a few meters down, and then he hears a splash, and then she comes back. "That's it. I've given it to my friends. Let's go for drinks now." So they went to the pub, and that was it. Until a few days later, those brokers, those second-hand furniture sellers, came to the property. And it's quite a lovely area to live in, Barnes. Very expensive. We are on the upper class area of town, but yeah, it's quite nice. So yeah, a few days later they came to pick up the furniture. So they've got those kind of I suppose it's a horse carriage, but imagine a removal van today. The young Robert comes to help as well, and the as well. Well, she had got away with quite a lot. In the week prior, she had a call delivery, and he wanted to be paid, and she said, oh, Mrs. Thomas is not here. She had a guy that came to fix a leak, and she refused him. She said, no, there's no leak anymore. So she kind of already got quite close to getting caught. But that very day, the landlady from next door, she comes out, and she's like, where is Mrs. Thomas? Who ordered the removal of those furnitures? And the removal guy was like, it's dancing. That was meant to be Mrs. Thomas. She had to say, I don't know. And then so she then packed everything. She had about £7 with her. That was quite a lot at the time. And she left. She went back to Ireland. She went to her uncle. He had a farm in the Irish countryside, but she made a big mistake leaving that quickly, because, well, she had cleaned the house, but obviously there were still a few clues, like the jars of human fat dripping, and also a few letters that the little Robert, the teenage boy, and they showed him the case that was found into the river, to identify it, to see if it was the same case that he had helped her carry over the bridge. And it was indeed. So there were quite a lot of evidence against her already. The police went to catch her in Ireland. And first, she was quite calm. They brought her back all the way to London. She was very calm. She accused everybody else. She actually accused some friends of hers. But that guy, unfortunately for her, he had an alibi for that night where she claimed it happened. And then she was like, no, actually, it's not him. It's another one. And then clearly she was going to be hanged. So she pretended to be pregnant, because that would delay, you know, the hangings. And they had a little check, you know, and she clearly was not pregnant. So she was eventually, the audio went off for a few seconds. Well, I hope at Wandsworth prison. So that's why I wanted to tell you that case in Wandsworth the other time. So yeah, resourceful woman, yeah, in a way so bold that you probably wouldn't notice it, you know. Well, clearly she was not the best of all criminals. She claimed that what happened, and that's probably what really happened, is that she had been full of anger against Mrs. Thomas, and she pushed her down the stairs and then finished her off. But yeah, well, those chunks of meat, you know, that she had cooked. Apparently the neighbors had noticed some kind of an odd smell coming from the kitchen. But, you know, in Victorian times, London was very smelly everywhere. So it was probably not as obvious as today. And yeah, that was the case of Kate Webster's for you. Now let's go. I do hope the signal is going to be good in here, but let me show you this amazing little church. So this is the church where I got the little flyer about the first murder. You glad you already ate? Good. The inside, and some have been added later on, so it's lovely. So yeah. A one-bedroom flat here, 2,500 a month average. So it's not any cheaper than central London. It's actually even more. But yeah, it's lovely. Let me see if I can open this, or if it's closed. No, it's fine. Yep. Sorry, bear with me. Oops. Is it even raining still? Maybe not. Oh, I'm gonna try to get rid of the umbrella again. Lovely little cottage here. Probably not the most private, but that's really cute. When does the time change in the UK? It's tomorrow. Here every day, so yeah. Oh, and let me show you something. So for those of you that follow my channel quite often, we might have spoken in the past about those telephone boxes that have been upcycled and that are now used to hold the location of the closest defibrillator. In central London, we don't really need to use the telephone boxes too much because you have a defibrillator in any train station, in any shopping center. But this one here has a little defibrillator inside. Let me show you. I don't know if we are allowed to open the door. Probably, as long as you don't steal the defibrillator. There we go. So that's what it looks like. So if you spot an emergency, they can now be used to save life. So that's quite cool. And this used to be a record. There's a sign here, let me show you. Yes, the Rolling Stones. So Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, Massive Attack. So quite a few famous here. And Barnes also has another record, and I've been trying to count. I got here a few hours ago, and I was looking for, any details that I can show you through the walk. It is known to be the most to hold the record in the UK with the highest. It's true. I've seen there's a McCall's down there. There's a Tesco. But most of the shops are actually independent. We're talking 96.6%, I think. So that's quite good, because most of the streets elsewhere in the UK, you've got, Poundland, Greggs, TK Maxx. So that's very much independent. So that's quite cool. And let's go all the way up so I can show you the Victorian pub in which they held the inquest into the case of, at the time it was not even the case of Kate Webster's, but it was only the Barnes mystery before they heard about. It's not raining too bad, so I'm going to have a safe journey home, hopefully. Very good. Actual building is Victorian. It's I think it's in the UK a lot of it's Fuller's, it's at the top. In the UK you have a lot of pubs that are actually they belong to a brewery, so that kind of reduce the selection of beers you can have on tap. So, it depends what type of beer you're into, but some of them have a selection because it's only the brewery with which they work. Anyway, it's gonna be the end of the tour. Let me know if we can see we're not in central London because the buses, you've got some single decker here. Well, you've got some of those near me as well, but you've got some more around here. We're not too far from central London, but it feels a bit more like the country. Birds, and they do talks for the kids, and so we have a lot of those green areas on nature reserves, like really if we were in the countryside. But if you have a Halloween actual night, I've scheduled Talented Ghost of Covent Garden. So, the West Coast might be happy. And I've lost you for a sec, I think. Because I'm probably gonna do it from the streets anyway, because for me, if all the questions are on YouTube, no social media, but go for it. Cool. Thank you, Suzanne. Thanks everyone for